Right, you're getting a sneak peek into how chaotic my workspace usually is. I've got my pile of rubbish over here. I've got all of the various different things that I was previously working on around, and then I've got the things that I'm working on currently, and all of my tools, just like spread out like that. It's quite organised, I think. It's really easy to find things when I want to. I don't get mixed up with various different things that look almost exactly the same. I don't make stupid mistakes. It's just so easy working like this, but I digress. What I wanted to talk about was the problem about having loose joints that I've been facing since I first made Sally, the first Sally, the elastic one, if you remember her. And I'm kind of kicking myself because at the time, a friend told me that it might be a good idea to put like rubber pads inside the sockets to sort of increase the friction there. And I kind of wrote that off because, well, I'm not really sure. Partly I wanted to try and make her fully out of all of the same material. I'm not quite sure why that spoke to me. I guess it's a more elegant solution in my mind at the time than trying to do a hybrid approach of like various different materials. And I also didn't want to get pre-made ball and socket joints for similar reasons, but also because I wanted to fully make this all myself. I didn't want to have to rely on bought parts. And I realised that is reinventing the wheel a bit, but that's how I operate and that's how I've always operated. And what I find most joy in is doing exactly that, like making things hard for myself and reinventing things. And that's just how I'm going to stay. I think it's a really difficult thing for me to break that habit, so that's that. So this friend suggested that I use these rubber pads. The reason why I'm kicking myself is because that is exactly what seems to have solved this issue. So these 4 pieces here are all joints that have these rubber pads in, but the action on these things is mega smooth. It's like so nice and buttery. When it's just plastic on plastic, you get this kind of creaking sound. Don't know if you can pick that up. I'm going to just do that to the microphone. Maybe that sounds nice. Oh look, it's free over there. Okay then. So yeah, it does that, and while the sound isn't that much of a problem, the motion is, because that creaking means that the plastic is forever trying to get past a certain amount of friction before it can start moving, which means that if I have to apply quite a lot of force to it until it starts, which means that it often moves further than I want it to, which is not good when I'm trying to move things quite accurately. Basically what these holes are is a way of adding flex into the parts. So previously they didn't have anything like that. They just looked like that. They were a lot more rigid than these parts. And this flex allows me to get enough pressure on the joint that it holds it in place, while also allowing the sort of socket to expand to accommodate the new thickness of the pads inside, which is made of this like pleather stuff. This is what I used to make Sally's boots, if you remember. And that just gives us, at the same time, an allowance for any sort of inconsistency within the balls, and also continues to give the sort of clamping pressure of the rigid piece. So that's why I did these things. So that's where I am with that. I'm going to be modelling Osum again to sort of incorporate all of these gaps and things like that, and also Sally. Some of these parts of Sally. I think this pile over here is generally Sally, and what's left of this pile over here is generally Osum. But I feel like there's been some cross-contamination between the two, and also some tests and things like that in the meantime. So I'm going to have to do both of them again, and once I do that, I can print them and then put it all together and see how it works. Okay, second time around. These are all the bits of Osum laid out. Got the legs, torso, head, and arms. Basically, some of this stuff needs to be cleaned up first. Like you can see, there's still some of the supports on the pieces. And then once that's done, once that's all cleaned off, I can start gluing pieces together and fitting them with this leather stuff. Probably going to be a time lapse, and I'll show you pieces of interest as I come across them. Look at this here. That bit there, I was having some problems with the 3D printer where it was like collecting plastic and like burning on the nozzle and then deposit it in places. And it seems to have done it inside here. I hope that it hasn't caught the edge of the socket, because that could compromise it mechanically. Hopefully it hasn't done that. Yeah, you can see it is actually on the inside of the sphere there. So I'm going to have to cut that out. Hopefully it's not too bad though. Something that's really annoying about this new design is that when it's printing, this side here is on the base, but because this part is slightly higher than it, if it's printing like that, you can see that that bit there is just ever so slightly higher than this, which means that it's off the bed, which means that it has to have a lot of support underneath it until the nozzle gets to that layer height and then can start printing this, which often results in like this really terrible quality here. You can see these two pieces can go together like that. And that sort of horribleness is hidden inside there. And then there'll be clothes and stuff on top as well, so it's not too much of a problem. It's just, you know, my sort of perfectionist aesthetic mind is bummed out about that. Have I mentioned how much I hate superglue? This stuff sucks. You can see how like inconsistent that is. Like this side is slightly higher than the left side. And this was the sort of inconsistency that I was talking about when I was explaining the new mechanism for the joints, because there's no way to account for that sort of human error in a fully 3D printed joint as before. So hopefully these leather pieces will help to sort of like soften that difference in there, because that's squishy, and that will take up some of the slack. That's the theory. So you may have noticed that this new head has hair on it. I've done one for Sally as well. Actually, I'll go get it. So this is Sally, and you can see her hairstyles on there as well. And the plan is to coat this with wool darning thread so that it's got a sort of nice sort of hairy texture to it. But I'm not having to fiddle around trying to make this form with woolen strands, which I think would be nearly impossible, at least for me to do. I did think about felting as well, but this seemed like the most accessible option at the time, so that's going to be fun to do. See, I don't know how the glue keeps getting on the top of it. It's so irritating. Like it's all over the bottom of it and it just won't dry. But like the merest molecule of it gets on the top and it absolutely ruins the whole thing. Absolute most annoying material in the entire universe. See? What? Like, how? How does it do that? How does superglue do this? Most irritating. Ah. I'm doing this one first because there's less area in this socket here. So you can see that's less than a quarter of a circle, whereas this one is more. So I need to work out first, because I want the pads to be opposite each other on the sphere, and I want to work out where this can go in here before I put it in here, because if I put it too far one way or the other in here, it could end up being that the opposite point on the sphere is outside of the realm of this socket. So that's what I'm doing now. Alright, so there we have Osum. She's all done now. She's all printed in PETG, as is Sally. She's got a fully PETG body. You can see that she's got 2 hands now, which is great, rather than 1 hand. As with everything that I do on this channel, and just generally in life, there's still a couple of things left to sort out with her. So the first thing is her shoes. This action is really nice. I'm really happy with that. But this rotation this way is a bit too loose, and actually they come off really easily. And that's just a case of either increasing the diameter of the peg here, or decreasing the diameter of the hole that it goes into, just so it sort of fits a bit stiffer onto there. The second thing is her shoulders. They're okay in several positions, but there's certain parts where they become really loose, like there. And I think that is because of the way that I stuck the 2 halves together. You can see there's a seam there. They're slightly uneven, so the sphere that constitutes the shoulder socket is not quite so perfect. It's more kind of like that. And I think that difference in geometry around it creates that kind of difference in motion in that socket. So this is fairly stiff here, but over here it's very floppy. An interesting kind of phenomenon that I've been sort of experiencing with this project is I've been sort of placing a kind of animus into the model of Sally, and now Osum as well, now I've got her. So it's been weird when I've been moving Sally from body to body, because this one now feels quite inert, whereas this one is the one that's got Sally's character and personality and sort of life in it. This is the bowl of previous Sally parts. You can see like there's quite a lot of like sort of tests and things in here. I don't know how much I've been influenced by watching Toy Story at a young age. It feels like everything that I have has some kind of like soul to it. So it's not just Sally and Osum, it's also like the tools I have. I find myself apologising to things if I sort of misuse them. All of this is kind of in good fun. I'm making a sort of fun of myself a bit. But something that I did feel a bit uncomfortable about was when I was trying to get magnets to fit in Osum's face and head, these guys. And I don't have a lot of these magnets, so I've been sort of reusing them from previous models. And I had a previously printed head of hers, which wasn't working because I'd stuck the 2 halves of the back head together incorrectly, so they didn't sit on the neck particularly well. But I had to, because I super glued the magnets into it, I had to sort of saw it open to get them out and to use in this one. And that's a bit sort of gruesome in a way, even though it's a sort of bit of plastic, it's not really doing anything. it still felt a bit kind of wrong in a way, and I hope Osum forgives me for this. If they do have some kind of soul, which I don't think they do, just for the record, I'm not that crazy, but if they did, I suppose, I hope that they would understand that all of this kind of like recycling and moving from one body to the next is in aid of making them better models. So that's a strange little thing that I've been experiencing. Talking about what I'm going to be doing next, what I definitely will be doing next week is working on Osum's clothes, which I hope will go a lot better than Sally's now that I've got a grip on how to do that properly. I think to save myself the sanity, what I'm going to be doing is making all of her clothes in this sort of calico or whatever this is. I'm not quite sure what this is. Cotton of some kind. Make it all in this sort of like test material first, and then go and get the proper materials and make it in that. So that's it for now, from me, from Osum, and from Sally. We all hope to see you in the next video.